From the Londonderry Bowling Center, welcome to Stars and Stripes Doubles as Championship Week continues here on the Winds. I'm Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy. Good afternoon again. And once again, we have a terrific match lined up for the Doubles Championship this time. 3 teams are already into the Tournament of Champions, and one of our 2 teams today will join them.
That's right. One of these 2 teams, and once the match is kind of decided mathematically, the second thought in their mind will be the final score.
All right, let's talk about our 4 bowlers that will be in action on this show. Our top 2 seeded teams from this series, as it turns out. Our number 2 seeded team looking to make it 2 wins in a row from Bradford, Mass, Mike Sargent, and his partner from Claremont, New Hampshire, Steve Vadney.
Okay, and Mike Sargent comes in averaging 125. His roll-off score was 680. Steve Vadney at 126, and his roll-off score 672.
And last week, Mike and Steve combined for 14 marks, including 2 big double strikes as they rolled a 395 to knock off Mike Poulin and Brian Uphold to get into this championship match. And so now they will meet our number 1 seeded team from Manchester, New Hampshire, Chuck Godzyk, and Chuck's partner from Bradford, Mass, Peter Flynn.
Okay, Peter comes in averaging 130. His roll-off score is 686. And Chuck Godzyk at 121, and his was the highest roll-off score at 698.
Yeah, no 700s in this roll-off, but Chuck Godzyk, who hasn't been here in quite a number of years, made it pay off in a big way by finishing in the number 1 spot.
Chuck and I go way back. We used to bowl in the league together. He's an excellent Candlepin bowler.
Well, we're looking forward to this match. Championship on the line, the spot in the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions, of course, and we'll talk more about that during the course of the hour. We've got 3 strings of doubles coming up. Don't go away. We're right back. All right, the crowd here at Londonderry ready for this one. Our top 2 seeded teams, Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney, whose combined scores in the roll-off, 1352. And up on top, Chuck Godzyk with a 698 and Peter Flynn with a 686 for a combined 1384. So we're left with our top 2 seeded teams, and Mike Sargent will lead it off for the team of Sargent and Vadney as we get this match underway.
Championship week. One of these teams will join the select few for the Tournament of Champions, the doubles edition.
Already we have 3 teams in. Bring you an update on who they are and their scores in a minute. How about that for a comeback? After chopping out the 4-pin on the first ball, Mike Sargent throws a strike ball and it turns into a spare.
You see the replay of that spare. And Mike decides to save Dottie a trip down and clears the piece of wood out of the channel, and he'll move over to lane 29 to fill that spare.
On the head pin this time, but unfortunately not the leave he would have liked.
The 5 and the 7. It's a makeable shot. And try to cut the 5 on the right-hand side.
Ooh, didn't miss by much. And takes the safe route, making sure he gets the 9 box, 27. Chuck Godzyk now.
Chuck has brought a few friends with him to root him on. Some of his bowling buddies. This is bowling at King Lanes in Manchester. Actually, Penardville, I guess.
The last time Chuck was with us was back in November of 1987 when he was here in singles competition and lost to Scott Richardson. That was his only previous appearance here on the Winds. But already in this series, we've seen Bill Treaple come in after several years away and get a win, so Chuck is hoping to do the same. Opens up with an 8 box.
He's got a partner that he's liable to have to carry a part of the way, you know.
Well, his partner, of course, is trying to become our first 2-time Tournament of Champions qualifier, 2-time this year, that is. Peter Flynn is already in the singles event.
Dropping out the 3-pin, had the 3 and 6 left for that spare. So they'll go open the first 2. It'll be an early advantage for Steve Vadney and Mike Sargent.
And, of course, for Steve Vadney, this is his second consecutive championship match appearance today. He was in our singles final as well earlier. And as we tape this, we don't know how Steve did in that first one, so he may be going for his second qualification, too.
Right in the face, Steve, right in the face.
Right now, you at home know that better than we do.
That's right.
I won't bother to explain why, because it gets very confusing. Oh, Steve misses the single. What was that we were saying last week about missing single pins?
Percentage-wise, these bowlers should be at least 50%.
Oh, big first ball again, and how about another one? This time the 9-pin. He's all over that one.
I was almost tempted to put that one in the scoreboard even before he threw it. I just can't believe he missed 2 in a row, but... Yeah, our first look at Peter Flynn.
And he throws a big first ball, and he's got a single pin, the 4. Peter was with us back in October and November when he put together 3 straight wins on the singles show, beating Brian Uphold, Bruno DeFeo, and Peter Pereira. Ooh. And Peter misses. Peter's winning score in the championship match was 403, qualifying him for the singles tournament of champions.
Go, Peter, I'll go.
Oh, another one. How about that? 4 in a row. 4 straight 9 drops. 2 by Steve Vadney, 2 by Peter Flynn.
It's the same 2 pins, isn't it? The 4-pin on both sides, and now the 9-pin. Peter's got a piece of wood in front of his, but he wouldn't need it if it wasn't there. So he match marks in the 4th.
Mike Sargent now to fill the mark left by his partner, Steve Vadney. Oh, that time there'll be nothing left. No single pins this time. Well, it was double strikes that did the trick for this team last week.
All right, you got another ball, get another ball. Let's go.
73 half for the team of Sargent and Vadney.
3-6, 4-7 left for Mike, and
well, he got 2. Probably not the 2 he figured.
No. Gives an 81 through 6. Now Chuck Godzyk will fill the mark put up by his partner Peter Flynn in the 4th.
Pretty good looking first ball, but it'll be the 7-10 with wood.
Wants that wood to roll out a little more. I don't think he's got the good angle for the 10-pin.
No.
10, Johnny, get the 10.
Chuck and his wife Karen live in Manchester. 3 children, 11-year-old Mark, Chris, who is 10, and 7-year-old Beth. Chuck works as an inventory control technician. As you mentioned, he has a lot of folks with him today. Oh, that's because he's been promising people for 5 years that he'd come back, and so people have been waiting.
Plus, it's just a short little jaunt down Interstate 93 from Manchester to Londonderry. Oh, boy. Got some work to do here. Still looking at 6 pins.
Ooh, he was going for all of them and winds up with just 5. So an early 21-pin lead for the team of Sargent and Vadney. Of course, they did a similar thing last week. They got off to a 41-pin lead after the first game against Mike Coolin and Brian Uphold last week. And they were able to nurse that lead home for the win.
Off target for Steve to the left.
Again, thanks to Bob Potter and his staff at Lamprey River Lanes in Newmarket, New Hampshire, for handling all the logistics for the finals. Final roll-off for this series, in which our 10 bowlers qualified. And a reminder that next week here on Stars and Strikes, at noon, we will have our annual mixed doubles series. And at 1 o'clock beginning next week, it'll be our annual ladies doubles series. Steve Vadney will be open for a couple, leaving a chance for Peter Flynn here. Couple of 9 boxes. Peter Flynn from Bradford. He and his wife Debbie have 2 children. 10-year-old Sean, 7-year-old Craig. Peter works for Grandpa's Printing in Lawrence. Oh, Peter put 2 fingers up and he got robbed. He only got 1. Peter does a lot of his bowling at the Pilgrim Lanes in Haverhill, Mass. Boy, that was a funny hit. Now he's got the 4, 5, 6, and 10.
Seemed like that last ball, everything kind of picked up and flew over the top of the back rows. Didn't get any mixing action at all. He's going to end up with an 8 box and 68 through 7. He still need a mark to get over the century mark.
Well, this time it'll be the 6, 7, and 10. He'll have 1 piece of wood remaining. I don't know if he'll give it a try or not.
I think he's going to go after the 6, 10 on the inside and have it come off the wall. I was wrong again.
Grab the 10, Pete. Grab the 10.
$10 box.
All right, Michael, finish with a couple right here. Come on, finish with a couple. Right here, buddy.
Mike Sargent.
Now, come on.
No.
That close to another one.
6. Go 11, go 11.
One big one.
Mike's looking at the 3, 5, 9, and 10. Piece of wood next to the 10 pin. So 2 open frames. The final 2 for Peter Flynn to work on, or I should say Chuck Godzyk.
116 rather for Sargent and Vadney to open. But it may be enough to take the lead unless Chuck Godzyk can put a couple of marks up. Oh, there's one. There is one.
Same ball, partner, same ball.
First strike for the team. Big one on the Brooklyn side.
I thought he was going to stand that 5-pin back up again. Looking for the double. Same hit. Same hit. This time he doesn't carry the 5.
All over there, Charlie, all over there. Charlie, one to hit, buddy.
He's getting his fans warmed up, too. The roof will come off if he can nail this one down. He's got it. Yep.
Nope.
9-10, Charlie, 9-10.
An 8 fill will tie it up.
Get in there. Come on, eat up, come on.
The 7 leaves them 1 short, 115. So only 1 pin the difference after it was over 20 for most of that first game. We'll be back with the middle string. Championship week continues on Stars and Strikes Doubles in a minute. Peter Flynn.
Over there, come on. Run him down, Pete, run him down. Run him, Pete.
Oh, yes. 4 horsemen for the spare in box number 1.
Chuck Godzyk set the stage, I think, for this rally with those 2 big marks at the end of the game, and Peter's followed it up now, starting off the second game with a spare of his own. And it's a 7 drop. Tough spare leave, though. 3, 6, and the 4.
Group of 3, Pete, group of 3. Peter. Good try. Make sure one, Finder.
And a 9 for 26 in the opening pair. Steve Vadney with a half Worcester right.
Whoa, too full in the head pin. Just took out the 1 and the 9.
And an $8.
Right back here, Steve. Right back here.
And this time, punches through the middle.
So far from the 5th frame on, Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney have failed to put a mark of any kind on the board.
Yeah, that's 7 in a row now.
When you finish, Charlie, keep going. Give me a shot, buddy.
So, Godzyk and Flynn have taken the lead by 9 to this point. And there is a big strike for Chuck Godzyk. All of a sudden seems to have found the range here.
It's crossing over in that 1-2 pocket right here. Look at that pin, almost stood right back up again. Looking for the double. Last time he threw a solid 9-pin drop. This time, let's see. 5-pin drop, still working on a strike. He's got another bonus ball coming. 4 horsemen left, plus the 10-pin.
Oh, yeah. Spare on strike for Chuck Godzyk.
So that's 4 in a row for him.
That's right.
Finished with 2 and came back with 2 more.
And all of a sudden, Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney are really struggling.
If it falls backwards, that 5-pin, he's got a chance of making the other 2, but they're going to be open again for the 8th consecutive frame.
$9.
Right back, Mike. Right back.
And all of a sudden, the lead is 20 pins the other way.
At one point, Sargent and Vadney led by 22 in game 1. Nope. So that'll be another open. That's 9 in a row now. And we will take a break here almost at the midway point of our championship match. Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney had the lead early, but now they trail against Chuck Godzyk and Peter Flynn. Don't go away.
Come on, Peter.
Peter Flynn working on a spare left by his partner. And it's a pretty good fill of 7. Maybe not exactly the lead that he had hoped for.
You'd like to have the wood roll back more to the left so he could have a shot, clean shot at that 2-pin, but I don't know if it's far enough back where he could drive the ball straight through. He may have to just cap that wood, and then you never know what's going to happen. Oh, he's going to try to drive it through, and it's enough. Good choice. I didn't know if it was back far enough where he could drive the ball through and get the 2-pin, but that's exactly what happened.
I think the fact that Peter throws the ball very hard probably helped him on that particular shot.
You get full advantage of the rest of the wood. Whew, it's going to go if it hits it.
Over there, Peter. Roll over there.
82 halfway through this second game for Flynn and Godzyk. And another mark. They're 4th in a row. And they are just on fire right now.
Well, all happened in 9th and 10th frames of that first game when Chuck put the 2 marks up, and they've never looked back since.
Sargent and Vadney now trail by 29, plus their opposite 2 marks.
And one of them has a 9 fill on it. 1, 2, 7, and 9 left for Steve. Desperately needs the mark to break the string. They're not still going to be open.
And off target again.
1, 2, 4, and 10 pins. Piece of wood behind the head pin should help him with the 10. It did, but didn't get the 2 and the 4.
Well, that's now 11 straight boxes without a mark for Sargent and Vadney.
Hey, Charlie, all the way down, partner, all the way down, Charlie.
And we'll see if Chuck Godzyk can keep the string alive. 4 consecutive marks and 5 out of 6 boxes in the second game. Working on a spare. Looks pretty good.
Oh,
Oh, he
he's
gets
one more.
5.
He'll get one more.
Look at that 10 pin.
Another spare.
Watch the 10 pin here. There goes the 5. Now watch the 5 pin rolls, hits the 10, and it spins around in the spot. Finally goes down.
And this time full through the middle with a 5 punch out. Chuck gets in that low crouch as he gets ready to deliver.
All right, Charlie, grab the up on him.
And a 9. 125 through 8.
I mean, that's a great game, but when you think they're bowling doubles, that's just a great effort by both bowlers.
This could be a big spot in the match right here for Mike Sargent.
It's almost getting to be a must. The 8 pin for a spare.
He's on it.
That breaks the streak of open frames. And they need a lot more just like that one, though. Trailing by 53, and he'll reduce that by this ball.
Wanted one more pin to go down, but not that one.
Well, there's a pin behind the 2 pin. And that'll help it jump toward the 6. Not quite enough.
$10. All right, Peter, start him, partner. Pretty big, Peter.
44 pin lead for Chuck Godzyk and this fellow right here, Peter Flynn.
Oh, my. How did the 4 pin stay up?
All over there, Peter, all over
It looked
there.
like it started actually to go, and then it stood up. I'm not sure if something hit it or whether it just jumped in its place right on the pin deck, but in any event, it's down now for a spare.
And that's 7 marks out of 8 marks out of 9 frames. Had a spare in the first, and they were open, as you can see, and then 5 consecutive marks, starting with a strike, and then 4 spares, and open, and another spare. 135 plus this ball.
Nope. Through the center again. Oh, of course, the big lead is one thing, but the big score is something else. That puts them in good position on 2 fronts. They're going to be up over 260 here after 2. They may have a legitimate chance to make a run at Gary Carrington and Joe Ashline's 407. They're at 263 after 2.
263. I thought you said 262, but I think you said 263. Okay, okay, 263. There's a spare.
I was going to say it's almost imperative for Steve to put up 2 marks here.
Big Phil, any kind of a mark, and a Big Phil could get it down to around 35 or closer to 30.
No, they're
one more.
Not getting any breaks on the fills.
He's got to play the 2-pin on the left.
No, not quite.
Tried to carry him the ball off and catch a piece of the wood in front of the 6.
No, it's a 108 and a 224 for Sargent and Vadney. So in the last 13 boxes, we have seen a 61-pin turnaround. Godzyk and Flynn now lead by 39 with 1 game to go here on the championship match of Stars and Strikes doubles. We'll be back to settle it all in a minute. All right, Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney, 39 pins in the hole going into the final game of our championship match. Oh, almost.
Just missed that head pin. Saw the look on Mike's face or his body reaction. He knew he just missed it. And can't afford to miss too many now. 10 bucks.
And wouldn't you know, after just missing the spare, it's a 9-drop.
It's a 7-pin. Piece of wood will cover it. But the farther away it gets, the worse off it is. He's going to shoot right at the 7-pin.
And he's got it for a spare. That's mark number 6 for the team of Sargent and Vadney. Godzyk and Flynn have 10, including 5 in a row in that second game.
They told us they were going to start with Chuck, and Peter got up, and then Chuck got up, and
both teams ending up staying with the same rotation here in the third game. Of course, as you know, they have the option of switching. Four horsemen left, plus the 10, and everything but the 10.
10, Charlie, get the 10.
Well, it's interesting. You've got 2 scenarios at work here, Dan, and we've seen this before. It's almost like 2 competitions in one for Chuck Godzyk and Peter Flynn. They're rolling against their competitors, but they're also rolling against the scores that have been posted in the seedings for the Tournament of Champions.
And it's interesting to note that they put Chuck up first, too. I mean, not taking anything away from Chuck, but Peter Flynn is, if not in the top 3 or 4 or 5 Candlepin bowlers. But Chuck has been bowling so well, it's a tribute to Peter saying, hey, listen, you're carrying the ball so far. Let's stay with the same rotation. A lot of things going on down there. And he works it out for a nice 10. Pair of 10s.
Of course, the Tournament of Champions coming up in the spring on both Stars and Strikes and Stars and Strikes doubles. It'll be our feature events of the year, as they always are, and all brought to you with the cooperation of the folks at Tri-State Megabucks. Just imagine being rich. Give it a try. Tri-State Megabucks. A 5 fill for Steve Vadney, and I think he believed he would have more.
I thought he was going to have more. It was a little light, but is it diamond plus the 10-pin, and he clears the diamond out, but the 10-pin stays. So they'll be open 2 out of the first 3.
Spot for a crasher. Good spot for a crasher.
7 marks.
The difference right now, 34. for Godzyk and Flynn, and wow, another pretty good-looking first ball, and you could just see kind of slump as he came away from the line.
And
he really thought he had thrown another good ball there.
6, 7, 9, and really not much to work at. I'd go as the 10-pin was standing up, try to clip the 6-pin on the right-hand side, have it jump across. 2 full of the 6, so they're going to have 2 open frames. Not really what they wanted.
In 44 through 4. So now Peter Flynn steps up with a chance to really put the hammer down a little bit here. Well, he will not have much to shoot at either. 4-7 on the left, 6-10 on the right. There is wood, but I don't know how much of a factor it's going to be.
Pretty short, Peter, pretty short.
Peter's going to have to make something fly around a little bit here. How about the ball flying around? We hadn't counted on that. It's still on the plate. Dottie Lark had to go down and remove the loose ball. It had come to a stop, but it was still spinning on the plate. Almost spectacular there for Peter Flynn. Instead, it's a $10. Let's look at it again. Watch the ball now.
Of course, we're always thinking wood here, and the ball goes straight up right in between the 6 and 10, knocks the 10 over, and really rocks the 6.
Another split.
6-10 and the 7.
Well, if he almost made the other one, he should have a chance at this one, right? Nope, not to be. And it'll be a $9 for Peter, so we will take a break. 5 pins off the lead, so it is now 34 with 6 frames to go. One of these teams is headed for the Tournament of Champions. Mike Sargent.
One of the young fans in the background say, show us one of those strikes. I would like to show him a couple of those strikes. Oh, almost.
Five pin, blocked by the wood in front.
Wood was way out in front of that 5-pin, and he hit it exactly on the red line and just pushed the pin to the left. The ball went to the right. And it's just a $9.
All right, it's a big ball right here.
Well, if you're looking at the scores and wondering about the scores that have already qualified for the tournament, as Mike just misses another one, 407 is our top qualifying score right now. Gary Carrington and Joe Ashline. 381 for Jack Sanick and Brian McKinley. 349 for Paul St. Pierre and Steve Reno.
Charlie, there's nobody up there, partner. Start him, Charlie. Warm up that lane up there now. Let's go. You want to go,
343 is definitely in jeopardy. 341, 343,
349.
349.
I know you can't read that. It's good.
3, Charlie, 2 for 3.
2-3 feet away. So.
Thank you very much. It's your writing that I can't read.
Yeah, that's probably true, too. Well, my mother always said I should have been a doctor. So. Yeah, certainly that lower score seems to be in jeopardy. The 381, I don't know about yet. It would depend on what particularly Godzyk and Flynn can do here. I mean, they're obviously in the driver's seat, but they're leaving the door open here, at least so far, for Sargent and Vadney. They just haven't been able to do anything with it yet. Godzyk and Flynn would need a 118 for 381. And at last, something other than a split.
Just enough to nudge that 5-pin. Watch the piece of wood just nudge the 5-pin at the end. Right there. Just enough to topple that over for the strike.
Godzyk and Flynn would need 70 pins in the last 5 boxes in order to catch McKinley and Sanek. And there's a strike for Steve Vadney. Question now is it too late?
No, he's got to be thinking another strike. You hear the crowd. Show us a double, Steve.
Well, double certainly would make it more interesting, as they still trail by more than 30. Hit it thin. The 2, 7, and 8.
Piece of wood in there to help with the 7-pin. Problem could be the 8. Can't afford to be open. Gonna give it a run.
Oh, how about that? Did everything he could. And a 9 for 91 through 8.
Hold it out, Peter. Hold it out.
Well, certainly any kind of a mark here by Peter Flynn would come very close to turning the lights out on this one, because he's working on a strike. And then we would start paying more attention to the final score.
Work it, Peter. Work it.
4, 5, 6, 10. Ooh.
Well, I'll tell you, he finds a way, doesn't he?
He scared it. So with that 10 box through the 7th, the lead is now 45. Or make it 33, excuse me. 6 pins for Sargent and Vadney this game. 33, the lead. Even if Peter were to leave this box open, it would be very tough, but with a mark, it would be almost impossible.
Pretty short, Peter. Pretty short. Peter, show me how it's done up there. Come on.
Well, he's come close on a couple of them. Let's see what he does with this one.
3, 6, 4, 7.
Come on. Hit him.
Not moving fast enough.
The 10, Pete. Get the 10.
A 10, 86 through 8. So when Chuck Godzyk comes up, he will need 2 marks to surpass that 381 of Jack Sanek and Brian McKinley. And of course, remember, they haven't clinched the match yet. The lead is 34. Mike Sargent looking for the strike. It's not going to happen. And that will about do it. Even that spare, even with that spare, if Mike were to throw a triple here in the 10th, Chuck Godzyk wouldn't have to mark in order to win it.
Come on!
7 Phil. And just nudges the spare over. Well, this will force Chuck Godzyk to keep the ball in the lane,
right,
at least when he comes up the final time. Seems like the minimum requirement, I guess, to move into the Tournament of Champions. And the fill is 6, a 124, and a 3-string total of 348. Godzyk and Flynn already at 349. So they have already won it. Now, 349, as I mentioned, Chuck Godzyk needs 32 pins here to tie Jack Sanek and Brian McKinley. In the event of a tie, remember, it would be determined by the highest single game for the teams. But he needs 2 marks in order to have a chance at that.
Just didn't get the ball over in the 1-2, where he's thrown 2 strikes in this match. That time it was just a little full. Tough spare.
Nope.
Pinch, Charlie. Grab the pinch, Charlie. Need the pinch, Charlie.
So it'll be a double strike needed for Chuck. But the big news is that Chuck and Peter are already into the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. So Chuck can bowl this 10th frame just for laps. But I'm sure he'd love to come up with a double strike.
Sure.
Put a big total up there, Charlie. Nine time, Charlie.
They've already surpassed Paul St. Pierre and Steve Reno by 8. The next checkpoint is 381, and they won't get there. So as of this moment now, Chuck Godzyk and Peter Flynn are in that number 3 spot of the 4 teams that have qualified for the Tournament of Champions, with 2 still to come.
Grab 3, Charlie. Grab 3, partner.
They were actually very fortunate, Dan. Just 1 mark in this 3rd game, and they still had enough to hang on for the victory as they score a 102 and a 3-game total 365. And that's the winning margin for Chuck Godzyk and Peter Flynn. They move on to the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. Peter Flynn is now qualified in both events, and we'll be back to talk to all the bowlers and hand out the prize money in just a minute. Welcome back to the Londonderry Bowling Center. Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy. We have our finalists for the Tri-State Megabucks Doubles Tournament of Champions. Peter Flynn has now qualified for both events, and he'll bring Chuck Godzyk along because Chuck did a terrific job today. He was in the number 1 spot coming in, and they pretty much split the responsibilities right down the middle. They both bowled very well.
Well, if it was 8 boxes, Steve and Mike would have won, but unfortunately, when Chuck got up for the 9th and 10th, that was a turnaround of the whole match, really. He got himself going as well as the team, and he's not really that good. He's just lucky. He's made the tournament champions both places. Look at him smiling at me. He's a quality bowler, and I'd have him on my team anytime.
All right, well, don't go away because we want to talk about next week's match coming up in a little bit. But first of all, we're going to give away some money, so let's bring up Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney as we have $400 in prize money to split between you two guys. And, well, we talked just last week at this time, it seemed, about how funny it is that it's tough for teams to win 2 in a row, and that's exactly what happened. You guys got off to a pretty good start, and then all of a sudden they put some numbers up on you.
First of all, you put the whammy on us by saying that.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. That's probably true.
We second string we couldn't get nothing going, and the 3rd string he hit a nice shot, didn't go, and I had a 9-drop with wood, didn't go, and that was a pretty close ball game if we make those, but it's a pleasure bowling with Steve. I'll bowl with him anytime he wants.
Well, it's been a busy few weeks for you. Not successful this time around, but boy, you guys had an early lead. It looked like you were going to do just what you did last week, and then all of a sudden Chuck really ignited them, it seemed, with those 2 marks late in the 1st.
Yeah, like Mike said, the second string really did us in. You know, both of us went flat, and a couple of shots go for us in the 3rd. We're right there, but way they go.
Well, we certainly hope to see you both again before the year is out. Thanks very much for coming by.
Hopefully we'll be together.
All right, all right. Mike Sargent and Steve Vadney, thanks a lot for coming by. And now let's bring up our winners and our newest qualifiers to the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. Peter Flynn, old hat for you. Chuck Godzyk, welcome back after all this time. Congratulations, and your fans love it. And we have checks for you as well. $400 first place for Easterview, $800 to split. And, boy, you guys really put it all together in that second game.
Yeah, we did. Second game, 3rd game, we went together right through the middle. But, I mean, I'd just like to real quick say hi to all my friends at my sponsor at Cramphouse Printing in Lawrence, if I might.
All right.
Thank you very much.
That is done.
And, yeah.
And now all I have to do is wait until the spring now. You're all set.
Yeah, I'm all set. You know, 50s, I'm all set, huh? It'll be a nice spring.
It'll be nice warm weather by the time we see you again. And Chuck, again, welcome back after a long absence. I guess this made it all worthwhile. Now you know you'll be back with this guy in the spring.
Yes, it was a long time, and I know it won't be quite as long.
What going into those last 2 boxes of that first game, obviously you guys were struggling a little bit. Were you pressing extra hard or thinking extra hard about just trying to put something on the board there at the end before the end of the first game?
Just hit the head pin, try to put a mark up there, and sit with something to build on for the second game.
Seemed to carry over.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to both of you. A 365 leaves you in 3rd place right now among the 4 teams that have qualified, with 2 more still to come. But you know you're here, and we'll see you in the spring.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Congratulations. Chuck, again, congratulations to you. This applause for you, and now this applause for Dan Murphy as we bring Dan back in. And that's a terrific match. Congratulations not only to Peter for making both tournaments, which is very tough, but for Chuck, after such a long absence, to come in and bowl this well and get into the Tournament of Champions, got to make him feel pretty good, too.
Oh, he's number 1 in the roll-off, and he certainly bowled like a number 1 bowler today. He just bowled exceptionally well, and just picked Peter up when Peter needed to be picked up, and then that's all you have to do is give him a little lead, and then he's gone. So
Next week, our annual event here on Stars and Strikes Doubles, actually on both programs starting next Sunday, January the 31st, we'll be trying something a little bit special in the middle part of the season. We'll have mixed doubles starting at noon for 4 weeks, and here at 1 o'clock on Stars and Strikes Doubles, we'll have ladies doubles for 4 weeks.
That's right. It should be interesting. Got some good women candlepin bowlers all over New England, and many of them will be making the show.
All right, and we'll see you next Sunday at 12 noon, Super Bowl Sunday. We hope to spend part of the day with you here on Stars and Strikes for 2 hours starting at 12 noon. Until then, for Dan Murphy and the whole TV 50 Sports crew, I'm Doug Brown. Have a good week, everybody.